Did you know that air pollution is estimated to cause over 7 million deaths per year and cost the global economy over $3 trillion? So I was recently listening to a podcast episode of Freakonomics, and they were talking about this impact of air pollution, not only on the environment, but our health and the economy. And it was absolutely mind-blowing. And air pollution is obviously not a great thing, with things like carbon monoxide and ozone and particulate matter floating around in the air. There's a lot of bad stuff that can cause us in terms of health effects. And I want to talk about that, but in particular, we're going to focus on particulate matter. And the particulate matter we are specifically focusing on is called PM 2.5, which is a particulate matter that is less in diameter than 2.5 micrometers. And for scale and reference, that is 100 times thinner than a strand of hair. So it's a very small particle we're talking about. And those tiny, tiny particles can come from natural sources like dust and smoke, but it can also come from human-created sources like the combustion of fossil fuels. The really dangerous thing is that particulate matter is something we can't see. Unless it's like extremely polluted, then it can kind of create a smog. But for the most part, the air can still be very polluted and you're not seeing the particulate matter whatsoever in the air. And this is the crazy thing. The World Health Organization, or WHO, estimates that over 90% of the world's air is polluted. So no wonder over 7 million people a year are dying of exposure to these really small particles that we can't see, that most of us are breathing in every single day. And no, it's not like these individuals are just walking outside, breathing in polluted air and falling over and dying. It's that the prolonged exposure to polluted air can create a litany of issues ranging from asthma to as severe as stroke, heart disease, COPD, and some things that will eventually kill you. There's even been some research showing that breathing in a ton of polluted air over the course of your lifetime can lead to cancers. And if you want to dive more into some of the health effects, particularly on the brain and our ability to think clearly, and how pollution affects that, I highly recommend listening to the Freakonomics episode. I will link that down in the description. It's fascinating. Basically, in a nutshell, they had individuals do a brain activity app like Luminosity and test the air quality on different days and see how that actually started to impact people and their scores and their ability to think clearly and perform on the Luminosity app. And it was really interesting. I highly recommend it. So that'll be linked down below in the description if you want to dive deeper into that, as well as how pollution affects our economy at large. But in this video, again, I want to focus more on the health effects and then what we can do about it, right? It's one thing to acknowledge that there's a problem, but how can we individually, make an impact on that solution? And I'm not going to dive too much into the environmental things that we can do and policy changes and all of that, but more so what we can do in our homes. So first things first, how do you know about the air quality in your area? Well, thankfully there's something called the Air Quality Index, or AQI, and on most weather apps, there's a section that'll give you the AQI. If there's not, you can go to a website, it'll tell you that. But the AQI is extremely helpful to understanding your air quality in your area. And keep in mind, the AQI can change hour to hour in the day. So if you check it and it's good air quality, let's say at 9 a.m., it could be totally different by noon, just depending on weather patterns and low pressure systems and all of that, and traffic patterns. So there's a lot that factors into the hour by hour air quality index, but it is a really important metric to pay attention to. So on this air quality index, anything from 0 to 50 is considered acceptable. Anything from 50 to 100 is considered moderate and okay, and anything 100 and above is considered no-go zone. Actually, I haven't even checked the air quality today in this area, which I'm in the suburbs of Chicago. So, frequently it isn't the best air quality because there's a lot of traffic. Traffic is a huge component to the air quality and the pollution in your area. So if I see what my air quality index is today here, it's actually not terrible. It's 25. It gives me a particulate matter score. It's really not terrible today. But again, that can change hour to hour. You just gotta look out for that. And the more you actually start checking the AQI index on your weather app or wherever it is, It actually is really interesting. You'll see some days will be really bad air quality index, and it'll recommend not going outside, especially for vulnerable populations like the elderly or anybody that has asthma or is more prone to allergies. So it's something important to pay attention to because it can really affect your health if you are outside breathing in polluted air. But anywho, I digress. Let's talk about how to make the air quality in your home a little bit better. Now, obviously, our outside air makes its way inside our living spaces, and a lot of us have HVAC systems with filters there, but a lot of the times it's not really doing what we need it to do to the degree that we need it to filter out certain types of particles. So that's where getting a home air filter unit can be exceptionally helpful. So getting a good air filter that's appropriate for the size of your home can really help with things like reducing symptoms of asthma, allergies. It can also help to reduce the chances of respiratory illnesses. A lot of the air filters will filter through viruses and bacteria, so things that are going to cause the cold and flu. And it can even lengthen the lifespan of your HVAC system in your home. But there are some really key things to look for in an air purifier that's actually going to work for you. One of those things is making sure it's a HEPA filter, and that stands for high efficiency particulate air filter. Yay. And you want to make sure that the HEPA filter has a MERV of 13. And MERV is really the score of that filter of how tightly bound the mesh is put together. And the more tightly bound it is, typically the better it's gonna be. MERV 13 has been shown to be the most effective without having to go way too high and spending excessive amounts of money for a really high MERV score. So MERV 13 is pretty much all you really need. The other thing to pay attention to is the CADR, or the clean air delivery rate. So you want the CADR of the filter to be at least 2/3 of the area of the room that you're trying to filter the air in. So considering those two things, you are going to be able to get a good air filter that's going to cover the space that you need it to cover and filter out the things that are most important. Now, if you're trying to filter out like smoke and odors from pets and things of that sort, you're gonna want to have something that also has an activated carbon filter to help with that piece of things. But all in all, getting a HEPA filter that has a MERV 13 and has a good CADR for the size space that you are trying to clean out is going to be really key. Now, I have some recommendations of different filters I can put down below in the description, so you'll want to check those out if you're looking for one. But I really do hope that this video was educational, provided some information as to what air pollution actually is, how it affects us, and what you can actually do about it to control your personal environment at home. And again, this is really important. I'm somebody with asthma myself, so I do have, I have my air filters here. I have them running at night most of the time, sometimes during the day, but it is something that's important to me, and especially for people that have lung conditions or are more prone to getting sick. So it is something to really think about and to take care of. Just because we can't see the pollution in the air doesn't mean it's not there. And if we really want to be proactive in our health, it's something to consider doing. And if you found this video helpful and enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it, you guys. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.